guys, welcome back to the Outpost review. Well, you can tell that I moved all that stuff again. I have to move it as I go, but I got the whole back wall done and I got one section done on that end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on this end and I'm going to work my way back around to where I'm actually coming in and out of that plastic, because I'm going to have to kind of redo that over there. It was just temporary, but it's coming along well. And I had a few comments. I did mention it on the other channel, but people were wondering why the height on some of the windows from the floor was up so high. Well, to my understanding, unless they've changed the rules, all of your headers are the same height within the building, and your windows or your doors, become or part of that header right there is the frame for the door or the window. I already gave you a treat. I already did. He's sitting here, he's begging for another one. I already gave you one. So what this is a 3-foot by 4-foot window. This is the bedroom right here. And this comes down lower than the ones I'll show you here by the wood stove. So here's the one for the wood stove. This is only a 2-foot by 3-foot. So from this mark where my header is going to be, a 2x6 header, down to here is 3 feet. Like the other window there, 4 feet, it would come down another foot. If it was a 5-foot window, it would come down another foot. So that makes all of the windows the same standard height throughout the house. You wouldn't want the bottoms the same, because if you had a very large window somewhere and then you had a short window like this and they were all starting at this level right here, then the window would only come up to here. That would look very odd. So all the windows measure from the same height of your headers all the way around. That makes everything the same standard height. The only thing that changes is the size of the windows that you're putting in. But this wall right here, since I'm standing beside what would be a bedroom wall, and then that bathroom is over there, this side would be dark if I didn't have any windows in it. So I just decided to go ahead and put two windows in here that would shed light on the inside. And then of course I've got the door over there that will have window in it, but this way this will get some light. So I didn't want it too dark back in here. And then of course the front wall, it'll have several windows in it. But anyway, let's run outside. I've got some things I want to talk to you about out there. So I recently was able to get the wood stove in operation, and it does, believe it or not, make a difference on the inside, even though those gable ends aren't covered with plastic. But the top of that is right at, or maybe a little bit below, the peak of the house. I'm going to have to get at least another half section and put on there and raise it up. It does draw, and it draws fairly well, but every once in a while there's a puff of smoke that comes out, and I know it's probably because the wind is coming over the peak of the roof right there and maybe forcing some of it back down in there. But I think if I get another half section and raise it up, then it will draw really well. But so far the stove seems to be doing a really good job on it. I cooked soup today on top of the stove, so that was nice. I think that once I get that flue up there and it starts drawing real well, I can build larger fires in there, close it up, and be able to cook a lot on top of the stove. That way it's holding the heat in there. And I really want to go ahead and get some glass to take those metal inserts out so that I can actually look in there and see the fire. But so far it's doing a really good job. So I've got something else over here that I've got in mind for this winter. This is the raised bed that I put in down here, and it really did well. I pretty much filled it halfway, kind of, with just the red clay, because I have an abundance of that everywhere. But then I shoveled took the tractor and the front end loader and took some of the dirt out of the woods and filled it up, and that grew very well. So all of the tops that I've been burning from the timber that we've been cutting up here down there, I'm going to take all those ashes, put those in there and kind of turn it over. And then what I want to do is I want to rake some of these leaves when I get a chance, put those on there so that they'll be able to set over winter, and then next year I can turn it up again and do some planting. But what I'm going to do, once I get the siding on the house, I'm going to add 2 more of those up here because I can't really do anything with this bank. I could kind of section it off and probably put some plastic and maybe some mulch up here to make it look good, but then, you know, nothing is really going to grow unless I can get some soil to stay on it. So I thought, well, you know what, why not? Let's just go ahead and tear this off and put some raised beds in here, and we'll make this bank a garden area. So, because there's nothing really else that I can do with it. So I plan on adding, I'll leave a section of about 4 feet, then I'll put another one in and leave another section about 4 feet and then put another one in. And that should get me somewhere up close to the top of the bank right here. And then I think that there's an area over there where I can add a half of one just below that rhododendron. I'm trying to preserve it. I keep working around it. Hopefully nothing ever disturbs it, but because I'd like to keep it. But I think I can put another half one there. And then right here where I'm standing, this area right here, which is directly behind the wood stove, I can possibly get one in here, maybe 2, not really sure. But that would give me 5.5 raised beds, and if I can keep them at a 25-foot length, if I can find enough cedar trees that are dead or downed to be able to do that, then that's quite a bit of space, because they are pretty much 100 square feet on each one of them. So that would be 500 square feet plus that I could actually have areas to grow, you know, things like green beans, lima beans, peppers, tomatoes, lettuce, carrots. Cucumbers actually worked good growing on the vine too. They were easy to pick. And other things like that. I will probably try to put in some potatoes and some corn in a different type of an area. But this right here will make good use of this bank because there's nothing else that I can do with it. So I'm going to try to get that accomplished this winter. It's not too hard to build. You just have to kind of lay the logs, drive some, or dig some holes. That's the hardest portion of doing that, or the hardest part of doing that, is digging the holes in this slate and this red clay. But once I get those in there, then just basically stack the logs on top of each other, put dirt in there where they don't roll, and then take some of the little wood rounds and close up the end and just start filling it with dirt, and you're ready to go. So that's another thing that I want to do to accomplish this winter, is get this ready for next spring. Since I've got the wood stove now, I'm not really sure where I'm going to stand on how much wood that I'm going to need, that I'm going to use. I haven't really touched any that we had stacked up. What I've been doing is busting some of this up, but one of those logs pretty much has been lasting all day. Of course, it's not really that cold, and I didn't have a big huge fire in there, but I would imagine that probably I would use 2 of those rounds in a daytime, from sun up to sundown, and then of course once I get moved in, you know, having heat at night as well. But so far it's not using that much wood. It's working well. Like I said, when I get that raised up, it should work a whole lot better. And then the other thing that I have to do is I have to get a couple of the rods or the fasteners and attach it to the house so that it doesn't really blow in a big windstorm. I mean, it's pretty solid in there the way it is, because it goes up through that roof real tight. So that's kind of like a brace in itself right there, and then I've only got one section up above that. But it does need some more bracing up there on the roof, so that's something else that I'll have to get and put on there. But yeah, there's a place where I can get some salvage tin, I think, which is basically new tin, but it's what people ordered and they didn't pick it up. So I'm going to try to match the color that I've already got here. I'm going to get some tin and put on this wood shed, and that will help preserve that wood that's up there. But yeah, I need to spend some time this coming year on cutting some more wood up and letting it dry out, so that I'll be sure and have plenty for next winter after I get moved in, probably early summer. That way I'll have plenty of stockpile of wood so that I'll be able to supply myself all winter and not have to worry about going and cutting anything. Another thing that I'm going to have to address, it's not anything urgent, but I will be getting some guttering for the cabin at some point next year. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a couple of large containers. I don't know whether they'll be above ground or below ground, but I want to situate those over there at the edge of that bank where that wood pile is stacked up over there, and have the runoff to go into those tanks. I want it to pass through a couple of crude filters, and then I'll need a pump down there to pump it back up to the house, but my idea is to use the rainwater for the sink, for the washer, and for the bathroom shower. I buy my water for drinking, but the rainwater is soft, somewhat soft, and if I drill the well here, what we have is sulfur and iron in the water in this area, part of the country. The last home that I built, and that was over 20 years ago, I think I spent $2,500 just on a softening system, much less. I think the well at that time cost us $3,000. We didn't have to go that deep, but you know, I don't want to go through those costs again, and the rainwater is free, and it would be just a waste when I could actually catch it, pump it back up here, run it through a couple of filters, and actually be able to use it. So that's what I'm going to have to do at some point next year, is to be able to, because we have a lot of rainfall here, is to be able to catch that water and utilize it, because I don't think that I'm going to use that much. So I've been thinking that probably a couple of 1,200 gallon tanks may be sufficient for me, because it would be replenished in no time. Even in the wintertime, we get a lot of rainfall here, so you know, if it was colder it would turn to snow, but it manages to stay fairly warm most of the year here. January, February are our worst months, and every once in a while we'll get a freak snow, but it doesn't really amount to much at all. Also, I don't remember if I mentioned this, but I did have one of the engineers from the power company come up here, and he quoted me $8,500. That was the cheapest route to go, and that was overhead, because as of April, the consumer has to pay 100% of the construction costs. There is no one pole or second pole, you know, in between that they provide in order to get to you. You don't share construction charges with them. You actually pay for it now. So, like I said, the cheapest way would to have been going in overhead, and that was going to cost $8,500. So I think what I'm going to do is look into some solar panels, the equipment that I need to put that in. I'm not in any big hurry for it, because I really don't need it since I'm not living up here yet. But at some point, you know, I'll put some solar panels in, I think, and get that set up. And another thing too is the power goes out a whole lot in this area because of some storms. So that would provide me the ability to pretty much have power all the time, as long as my system is maintained and it's working properly. So with that said, you know, I'll use LED lights because they don't draw much energy. Not really interested in having the microwave. The refrigerator would probably be the biggest thing that I would draw on, that and the washing machine. I'll have my laptop for editing videos. I plan on having some ceiling fans in there that will draw some energy, but not a great deal. So I don't see my consumption being a whole lot. Some of these individual buildings, like I could put a small single unit down there just to have some lights in that little bathroom down there, and I could do the same thing up there at the kitchen. So they don't have to be tied in with the main system on the cabin. They could be independent. But I am going to have to look into that, because I don't want to pay the power company that much money just to be able to pay them another $200 a month for power. Now, that would have been when I got older and wasn't able to do much and pretty much had to rely on something other than what I could do physically, like cutting wood and stuff, because I know that someday I'll end up being like that. But while I can, I want to do what I can and be independent. But I was curious. I did have them come up here and checked it out, and that's what they told me, and I thought, I'm just not going to do that. So we'll have to take an alternative route, and I think solar would be the best thing. We don't have a whole lot of wind, but I may work on maybe getting some sort of wind generator up here to maybe produce a little bit. And then we've got my neighbor and I, we've got some ideas on some hydropower. So, but I think that the sun would probably be the first step to take, because, I think that that would be the best avenue for me to take as far as the majority of my power. The creek that we have down there, when it's raining, it runs pretty full, but it runs very slow in the summertime when it's if we have a dry spell, and so it wouldn't generate a great deal. And then, like I said, the wind is we don't have any really substantial wind here, so I think solar would be my best route. One more thing before it gets late and Smokey and I have to head to the house. Wanted to talk to you about this angle iron. I know I've mentioned this several times, but if you're new to this channel, then this is your opportunity to hear about it. When I built this timber frame, it does have mortise and tenon. As I began to work my way up from the foundation, I decided to go ahead and add some angle iron just for precautions in case I ever lost a tenon, in case anything ever happened. The angle iron didn't cost that much, so I kind of like the look of it too. A lot of times you go to a steakhouse or you go to a place where they don't really modern, they still use big beams. A lot of it may be steel beams, and they use angle iron if they haven't welded it. But if they use wood, a lot of times they'll use the angle iron like that. You'll notice that when you go to those places. So I kind of like that look, kind of like Cracker Barrel and things like that. So I decided to go ahead and invest the little bit that it costs to put that in there, because what it does do, it does strengthen every joint. Although I do have mortise and tenon with wooden pins in there, the pins could work loose over time, and you just go back and you hammer them in. But with this angle iron, it strengthens that joint, and it also provides support for the beams that are hanging there. So like I said, if I ever lost a tenon, that angle iron is still going to support it. The angle iron also acts in a manner to keep the house from racking back and forth, say in a big windstorm. So since it didn't cost a whole lot of money, I decided to go ahead and put those in there. I did have some comments, well, why didn't you put them on top where you didn't see them? Well, that would defeat the purpose, because the only thing that would be holding the beam then would be the 2 screws. So you want your angle iron on the bottom for the support. Besides the fact, like I said, I think that it looks, I like the look of it. It looks robust. It looks, I guess, quite masculine. But yeah, I think once I get this decorated and I get things in here, you'll kind of see that it's not going to look that bad. Anyway, but I did want to address the fact that why did I put angle iron in here is just for support, added assurance that these joints aren't going to move, and that if anything ever happened, I've got that extra support there, and it just makes the whole cabin a whole lot stronger. But anyway, I hope, guys, that this little bit of information helps out on what I'm doing up here. I get a lot of different comments that come in, you know, why are you doing this and why are you doing that? And this is the easiest way to answer those, is just in general on a channel like this, on a review channel. So if I don't get back to you personally through a comment text type form, well, this is your answer for a lot of the different comments that are coming in on why I was doing things. I did have a comment too, or actually several comments, of why didn't I use glue when I was putting down this OSB. Well, I did, I just didn't film it. Okay, I think towards the end I filmed putting down some glue on the joist before I laid the OSB down. I don't know who would put down plywood, OSB, or whatever without using glue. I wouldn't do that. But yes, they were all glued. I didn't use any nails. They're all screwed in. And I'll be excited too when my son, he's got me a battery operated nailer coming with an extended holder for extra nails. I think they're called 30-degree nails. But I'll be excited to get that, because I've been using that impact driver to put the screws in, because it was a whole lot easier than taking a hammer and nails and trying to hold the two before and it moving on you, which I've done that a whole lot in my lifetime. But I figured I've got plenty screws. They don't cost that much. It'd be a whole lot easier if I just screwed it in instead of trying to nail it in. But I have been waiting for him to say something about the nailer, so it should be here in a couple days, so I'll be excited to get that. But like I said, anyway, I hope that some of this stuff helps you guys when you're watching the main channel, and it answers some of the questions that you have. My son, my daughter, and I, we can't thank you enough for all the support that you guys give us. We really appreciate it. We hope that you take part, and don't forget about the giveaways on both channels. We're excited to give back to you because of all your support that you give us. Anyway, guys, take care, have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you back at the Outpost next time.